One of the things I've really enjoyed about this season of the Bad Batch so far is the fact that the unit's kind of been split up, so we get to see other members shine a little bit more. When the unit's fixer Sid gets caught up in some poor gambling choices on Safa Toma, the only way the Bad Batch can help Sid out is by entering a very dangerous speeder race and winning. With Hunter and Echo on a different mission, it's up to Tech to take the pilot seat and use his unique set of skills to save the day. Now, every member of Bad Batch is special in their own way, but Tech has always stood out a bit more for me. He's by far one of the most analytical and intelligent Fett clones we've ever seen, and he often comes up with solutions and tactics that are ingenious. As good as Crosshair is with that sniper rifle, as strong as Wrecker is with his fists, and as quick as Hunter is with his knife, and Echo with his ability to jack into computer systems, Tech's good ideas oftentimes bridge the thin line in between failure and success. I always say that a lot of his ideas, when properly executed, are combat multipliers that greatly increase the efficiency of this very small commando squad. It's through Tech that the Bad Batch can control the flow of battle, and whoever controls the flow of battle controls the battle itself, which is what makes Tech one of the most valuable members of this unit. But there is one issue with Tech. He's very soft-spoken. He's not the type of individual who likes getting into confrontations, and a lot of times is not willing to fight for his own ideas. While everyone else is taking the frontal assault approach, Tech carefully consults as many sensors and data collection points and calculates optimal strategies that can be used to achieve victory, which kind of runs counter to everything the Bad Batch stands for. When we see them on Kala right before Order 66 occurs, they take on an entire Seppi column which had tanks at very close ranges for no other reason than because they can. We see the same thing happen on Anaxis, which is the first time we get to see Clone Force 99 in action. After a crash landing in a dropship, the squad is caught in the open with wounded clones by a Seppi column. Once again, instead of creating a defensive position, the unit runs headfirst into the more numerous enemy forces, and Tech is relegated to calculating the optimal angle for Hunter to throw a droid popper into the sky for Crosshair to hit with a blaster. Which is really cool, and it definitely does work, but I can't help but think that Tech here is trying to fit his abilities to the unit style rather than the other way around, which might actually be a better idea, because if there's one thing the Bad Batch does lack, it's usually planning. Hunter was a terrific leader in his own way. He had a really solid moral compass, which got the clones out of the Empire before it was too late. He had great instincts and senses that made him take in the battlefield in a very comprehensive way. But at the end of the day, Hunter was a straight shooter. He had a very gruff and simplistic way of dealing with people and also the battlefield. Hunter wasn't really a strategic mastermind. Like Wrecker, he's just a pure killing machine. This is probably why Hunter was just a sergeant, an NCO. NCOs are important for small unit actions, but the Bad Batch wasn't just a normal rifle squad attached to a larger clone legion. It wasn't a smaller cog in a giant machine. It was actually a commando unit, not all that different in makeup and purpose from the clone commandos, which means they had to function independently behind enemy lines. In the Special Forces, it wasn't uncommon for lieutenants, captains, or even majors to be in charge of small commando squads like this. Because Clone Force 99 is operating independently a good percentage of the time, they need that extra brainpower and planning to keep them out of trouble, because Clone Force 99 doesn't really have any backup, especially now that they've gone rogue. They depended on their luck and super enhanced abilities for quite some time, but they've also depended on the backing of the JR and the Empire, and now without that, it seems like they're beginning to struggle more and more. And so when I watch The Bad Batch, I get a sense that Clone Force 99 survives despite Hunter and not because of him. For instance, during a mission to retrieve a baby Rancor from a bunch of Zygerian slavers on Ord Mantell, Hunter fails to adapt to the fact that Crosshair, their marksman, is no longer with them. And so instead of being able to assign a sniper to an Overwatch position, Hunter assigns Echo to be Overwatch. I mean, nothing against Echo. He's a terrific soldier, but he has one arm and he can only use a tiny little blaster pistol, which isn't really useful at range. I mean, sure, he's got eyes and he can scan things and he can report what's going on, but he's really like the last person you want to put in that position. Perhaps Tech, who is a strategic mastermind and really good at analyzing everything around him, would have been a better choice for the job.
I'm clocking 24 hostiles. Multiple entry points with minor fortification.
Of course, Tech never gets to suggest an approach here. He just gets cut off by one of the more aggressive members of the team, which is what usually happens.
Simple smash and grab like that time on Kuat. Easy enough.
I'm in.
What are we waiting for?
Yeah, let's see what happens when we listen to the tactical advice of a small child and a much larger child. Both valuable members of the Bad Batch, but clearly not individuals who should be leading the squad into a battle. And the result is Echo gets smashed and the rest of the crew gets grabbed by a bunch of lowly slavers. It's almost embarrassing, especially after seeing the same unit dismantle entire droid columns by themselves. This points to two things about the Bad Batch. One, Crosshair was clutch. He was like a DPS specialist and always watched the squad's back and prevented enemies from getting a drop on them. And two, there is a real weakness with the Bad Batch in the planning department, especially after Order 66 when all of their support and intel was dropped. And yes, this is also partly Tech's fault. He's an extremely bright and intelligent individual. He's very curious about the world around him. But when it comes to social settings, he's very non-confrontational. When the Bad Batch and members of Captain Rex's unit get into a bit of a scuffle, Tech tries to de-escalate the situation.
Guys, come on! Wrecker!
And that's because Tech is always in control of his emotions. He rarely ever gets pissy, even with Wrecker, who oftentimes does exactly the opposite of what he wants.
There's no room on board for that.
Yeah, well, I'll make room. A new mission and unlimited explosives. Things are back to normal.
That's not going near my rack. I refuse to see.
Actually, it seems like a lot of times Tech is paired with Wrecker for some reason, as if, like, you know, his reason will balance out his inclination for blowing up things.
The key should be embedded below the rear parallax inverters.
Just tell me what to rip out.
Well, start with that.
And that's okay for Tech because Tech doesn't really have that big of an ego. He's a true team player. He's willing to do whatever, you know, his team wants him to do, which unfortunately is detrimental to his team because Tech is a tactical genius. He's definitely one of the smartest members of the team, and he should have more input in what they do and how they do it. When the clones were trapped in the Camino training exercise room because Tarkin wanted to see if they were able to take out a bunch of security droids with no lethal weapons, it's Tech who manages to slice into the droids so that they can use the lethal blasters on them against their own ranks. When Omega is snatched by Fennec Shand, it's Tech who tracks her down in the crowded city with the surveillance cameras. When the clones escape from Camino, it's Tech who immediately builds a scanner to make sure the inhibitor chips in the clones don't begin to control them.
Repairs would go faster if I had some help.
As soon as I finish building this scanner, testing the functionality of our inhibitor chips takes precedence.
I thought you said they were defective.
A theory this device will be able to prove.
The man was functioning at a complete different level. He was always a few steps ahead of everyone else. He had the insight to be a great leader, even though he might have lacked some leadership qualities and charisma. At the least, they should have used him as an advisor, a more direct advisor to Hunter, who was making all of the decisions. But this points to a truth in life. Oftentimes, the individuals who are the most capable, the most intelligent, the most sensitive and aware of their surroundings and good at gathering information are also socially less boisterous, less likely to over-embellish their own accomplishment, worth, and abilities. And so the Steve Wozniaks are always going to be overshadowed by the Steve Jobs of the world, and that is very unfortunate. The Techs of the world, these capable individuals who perhaps lack the social skills to convince others that they actually know what's going on, have long been overshadowed by these more dominating personalities. Nothing against Hunter or the rest of the clones in the Bad Batch, they all have their hearts in the right place, but it would be interesting to see Tech step up throughout the rest of the season and take more, command positions, because he's actually quite good at it. Well, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Should Tech step up more? Should he be more involved with the tactical decisions? Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy.